Hello friends, welcome back to my new lecture. Today this lecture is the second part of the lecture that I have already done on University Wits. In my first video on University Wits, I talked about what were the characteristic features of their writing and how University Wits played a very significant role in the growth and development of British English drama. The University Wits, in a sense, was instrumental in the growth and development of British English drama, and how the University Wits paved the way for Shakespeare, and in what ways and how were University Wits a great positive influence on Shakespeare. These were some of the points that I discussed in my last video. Now, in this video, I will be talking, as promised in my last video, I will be talking about in details about the 7 University Wits. Now, before I begin with the 7 University Wits, I would just like to talk about some of the features of their writing. So, if we look into the features of University Wits writing, we will find that they were mainly dramatists who believed in heroic themes, and their treatment of writing the dramas was very long sentences they used, very elevated sentences they used. There were some very big words, we can say, or bombastic words that were used in their dramas. There were very high sounding lines and magnificent epithets that were used by them in their dramas. Their style of writing dramas were mainly heroical, and we can say heroic style, and tragedy was mainly written by them, apart from Lilly, who paved the way for comedies also. And all these features, if we look into in details, we will find that since Senecan influence were directly inevitable on their writing, and that's the reason why you will find that the traits which Seneca had in the writing could be found in the writings of the University Wits as well. And they were really fond of heroic themes because of the direct influence of Seneca. And as I discussed in my previous lecture, Seneca's translation of the 10 tragedies was done during the time of the University Wits, when they were in their degree level in Oxford and Cambridge. Now, let us start with the first University Wit of John Lilly. John Lilly is considered to be one of the very significant contributors in the overall group of the University Wits. And as I mentioned in my last video also, that University Wits is a combined effort, it's a group effort. All of them had some important role to play, and that is why all the 7 people are considered to be equally important in the University Wits, although we might have our own reservations. So John Lilly, he published in 1632, Blount published 6 court comedies under the title of 6 court comedies. Blount published John Lilly's, the first printed collection of John Lilly's plays. And which were the 6 plays? The first was Endymion, the second was Campesque, the third is Sappho and Pheo, the fourth is Galatea, the fifth is Midas, and the sixth is Mother Bombay. These are the 6 plays by John Lilly, which was published by Blount under the title of 6 court comedies in 1632. John Lilly's other works also included Euphues, The Anatomy of Wit, Endymion, Love's Metamorphosis, and Euphues and His England. Now, when we consider John Lilly, he is considered to be one of the most talented of the University Wits, but at the same time he is also considered to be one of the most neglected playwrights. I said that John Lilly was one of those University Wits who could be considered to be the master of comedies, and mainly his comedies were performed for private audiences and was performed in the court. But there was a intellectuality in his comedies. There were puns, there were conceits, and there were all sorts of you can say verbal uses of words in various ways, paradoxes, puns, all these features were part of his writing skills. And one of the other characteristics that I would like to share with you all about John Lilly is he is also considered to be one of the most underappreciated playwrights in the category of the University Wits. Then if we move to the next category, the next University Wit, we talk of Thomas Lodge. Thomas Lodge lifeline is around 1558 to 1625. In terms of the output of dramatic quantity, Thomas Lodge's dramatic quantity is very meager, but very significant. His prose romance, Rosalind, was taken as an inspiration for Shakespeare's As You Like It. His other plays are The Wounds of Civil War and A Looking Glass for London and England. He also played a significant role in pamphleteering. He was a very famous pamphleteer, and his pamphlet included a very famous category of pamphlet included a defense of his plays. By birth, he was economically well off, as he was the son of the mayor of London. He was educated at Oxford and studied law, and he was a great pamphleteer. He is considered to have collaborated with Shakespeare in the writing of Shakespeare's Henry VI, and he died in 1625. There is some eventful happenings in his life. For example, he took to, after writing and studying, he took to the practice of medicine by 1596, and then he converts, he becomes a Catholic by 1606. And due to some reasons he leaves England and again comes back to England in 1610, and as I said, he died in 1625. Thomas Lodge is followed by Thomas Nash. Thomas Nash's lifeline is 1567 to 1601. He is mainly a dramatist, because when we talk of University Wits, in my previous lecture I informed that University Wits were multi-talented. They were dramatists, playwrights, pamphleteers. Thomas Nash is basically a dramatist. He wrote a work called The Isle of Dogs, and this Isle of Dogs became very controversial, for which he was also sent to prison. Some other plays are Summer's Last Will and Testament. His satire and romance, prose romance, is The Unfortunate Traveller, or The Life of Jack Walton, which is very famous. And he is considered to be a very good prose writer too. His very famous work is The Unfortunate Traveller or The Life of Jack Walton. As I shared with you all, that he collaborated with the other University Wits. In my previous lecture, I already informed you all that University Wits knew each other because their passion was drama, and that brought their passion brought them to London, and of course they studied. They were the first group who were officially studying in the University of Cambridge and Oxford. So he collaborated with his very close friends, Greene, Robert Greene, and with Marlowe, and he is also considered to have done some work in the field of periodical also. He shared, he was imprisoned, as I say, for a short period of time. And after Thomas Nash comes the next University Wit, Robert Greene. Robert Greene's lifeline is 1558 to 1592. He died very young. His famous plays are Alphonsus, King of Aragon, which was published in 1587, which is considered to be an imitation of Marlowe's The Tamburlaine. His other plays are Frere Bacon and Frere Bungay, History of Arnaldo Firuso, and Scottish History of James IV. He also wrote The Wounds of Civil War in collaboration with Thomas Lodge, and his prose romance is The Triumph of Life, which is believed that Shakespeare was influenced from the Triumph of Life, and he derived The Winter's Tale from The Triumph of Life, written by Robert Greene. Robert Greene was also educated at Cambridge and Oxford, and he was considered to be a writer who mixed various themes in his writings. For example, love, fairy tales, history, and there was all sorts of what do you call masalas, all sorts of ingredients in his writings, and he is considered to be one of the most talented and foremost of the university wits. Robert Greene is followed by Thomas Kidd, one of the most celebrated university wits, and his lifeline, Thomas Kidd, as we all know, died very young. His lifeline goes as 1558 to 1594. He was a very good friend of Marlowe. His famous Kidd is known for his Spanish tragedy, which is of course Senecan in spirit. It was not Senecan in form. Its plot was very horrific, which included murder, frenzy and sudden death, and gave the play a very great and lasting popularity. Till date, the Spanish tragedy is considered to be one of the very famous plays by a university wit, that is Thomas Kidd. His other tragedies are Solomon and Perseda and Cornelia. Of course, Cornelia is an adaptation of the Senecan tragedy. When we say of university wits, Thomas Kidd is one of such university wit who had no university education. Most of his works which he had written, unfortunately, has been lost. He wrote a work, a Danish tragedy called Hamlet, and which is considered to be precursor of Shakespeare's Hamlet. And he is considered, he died very young at the age of just 36, and his characteristic features of his writing was the art of his stagecraft. The audience was enthralled by the stagecraft that he employed in his dramas, and he was a dramatist who took into considerations the expectations of the audience and the interest of the audience. Thomas Kidd was followed by the other university wit called Robert Greene. Robert Greene's lifeline follows from 1558 to 1592. Robert Greene also died very young. Some of his plays are The Arraignment of Paris, which is a pastoral play and is kind of a romantic comedy. Other works are The Old Wives' Tale, The Love of King David, and Fair Bathsheba, which is a biblical play. The famous Chronicle of King Edward I, which is a historical play. Mostly George Peele used blank verse in his works. His blank verse was very easy, which he used, and he is considered to have collaborated with Shakespeare in writing of Titus Andronicus, which is of course not established, it is believed. And his work called The Chronicle of Edward I, which was published in 1593, paved the way for Shakespeare's historical plays. Shakespeare was very highly influenced from this work of George Peele called The Chronicle of King Edward I, which is believed to have inspired Shakespeare to have written his historical plays. He also wrote a work called A Farewell to Arms, which is also the title of Ernest Hemingway's novel Farewell to Arms, which is based on the World War experience. And he handled blank verse, as I said, in a very easy way and provided a lot of variety to it. And one of the writers, George Peele, was basically writing about the society of London, and he tried to infuse the spirit of nationalism, spirit of inquiry among the Londoners, among the Britishers. George Peele is, after George Peele comes one of the most celebrated university wits, that is Christopher Marlowe. If you look into the lifeline of Christopher Marlowe also died very young. Around 1564 he is considered to have been born, and he died around 1593. He is known for his 4 major plays, which are very powerful and famous till date. One is Tamburlaine, the other is The Jew of Malta, the third is Dr. Faustus, and the fourth is Edward II. These are the most powerful plays which he had written and is still in vogue, is very famous. His other plays include Dido, Queen of Carthage, and the Massacre of Paris. He wrote a non-dramatic poetry called The Hero and the Leander and The Passionate Shepherd. Marlowe wrote all the plays which are tragedies, and he was born in Canterbury and was educated in Oxford. He somehow did not have that bent of mind towards comedy. As we all know, unfortunately, he was killed in a drunken ball in a tavern at the age of 29 in 1593. And it's also believed that he was a spy, and as a result of it, he traveled very much. He was very flamboyant in approach. He was very modern in his dressing sense, and somehow was not fascinated for comedies. And he was born, one of the features is he is considered to have been a spy, and that there are stories that brawl which took place was a part of the scheme of things which was planned to murder him, and ultimately he got killed in that brawl. We can only just imagine if he wouldn't have been killed, and if he would have been alive till date, what would have been the scenario of the category of University Wits and his stature. Same like the romantic poets, most of the University Wits, they died young, and it's really a puzzle for all of us as students of literature that had these people lived, had John Keats lived for 60 years, had Marlowe lived for 60 years, what would have been the scenario of British drama and poetry. Now, when we have a general outlook, when we try to understand some of the understandings, what we understand after going through the University Wits, their characteristics, their individualities, we very clearly conclude that some of the most powerful University Wits, they died very young, and when they had a very successful professional career, they died very young. And of course, because they died young, and as we know that University Wits was succeeded by Shakespeare, so the question always arises, had these characters such as Marlowe and Kidd, had they lived longer, would Shakespeare had become so famous? But ultimately they died young, and Shakespeare was of course influenced by their writing, and collaborated with some of the University Wits. And in my first lecture I said that when the University Wits were already, when they were popular, then they enjoyed a lot of popularity. Shakespeare at that time was a struggler, and we can very clearly say that the tragedies of Marlowe, Kidd and Lilly's comedies had very, very significant effect on the writings of Shakespeare and the production of the dramas which Shakespeare wrote, and no other writer succeeded apart from Shakespeare during that time after the University Wits. After the University Wits left that vacuum in the field of modern British drama. And what we sum up also was some of the University Wits, they lived very recklessly, and they were very, very active in their city of operation, that was London. There's a lot mystery surrounded with some of the University Wits. Probably one of the reason is we don't have enough information, unfortunately. And also, their reputation, they were very highly celebrated writers of their time, pamphleters of their time. And there is no doubt of the fact that they played a very, very significant role. They influenced Shakespeare a lot, and they provided the direction, in my opinion, I think, to Shakespeare's writings. And of course, they played a very, very significant role in the growth and development of British English drama. So I hope I was able to give you an idea about the University Wits. Of course, this is just you can say a summarized form of University Wits, You can of course explore research on University Wits. Very interesting topic from any point of view of examination, be it your master's examination, graduation examination, or any competitive examination. You can always expect questions from University Wits. So this is a topic I would rather suggest you all not to not to give it a miss, and research on it and prepare comprehensive notes on it, so that that can be helpful for you throughout your career, because this is a very, very important and pertinent topic, and a very active topic in the minds of the examiners also. And I hope I was able to give you a brief outline of the University Wits. I was able to throw light to some of the features of University Wits, writing characteristics and their individualistic contributions. And before I leave, I'll just request you all that if you all like my video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and please refer to your friends and colleagues to watch my YouTube channel, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And yeah, that's it for this video. Until next time, see you next time. Take very good care of yourself. May God bless you all. This is Dr. Shrikant Banerjee signing off. See you very soon. Thank you very much for watching and taking your valuable time out and watching this video. Thank you very much.